So a lot of people are often thinking, and the question I'm also asked is, what is better? Should I buy or should I rent? What are some of the differences? What are some of the advantages? What are some of the negatives? That's this week's topic. And if you're interested, well, stick around. We're going to get started right now. Welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you are here, please consider hitting that subscribe button over in the corner. While you're at it, ring that little bell. What that'll do is that'll notify you each time I put out a new video. I put out new videos every single Tuesday. What do we talk about? Talk about all things happening around Palm Beach County, all things happening in South Florida, all things real estate. So why might some people rent as opposed to buying a home? Well, there are a couple of good reasons why that might actually make sense. One of the reasons I see happening more and more often is because I do, as most of you who follow this channel know, I do a lot of relocations. So people moving down here to South Florida from places such as New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut. What they say is, I know Florida a little bit. I might have relatives down there. I visit them from time to time, and I love it down there, but I don't really know the difference between living in Jupiter or living in Wellington or living in Boca Raton. And then, quite frankly, there are some big differences. I highlighted that in one of my videos previously, where to live in Palm Beach. So if you're not 100% sure of the areas and you want to rent for a year, I completely understand that. And that could be a really good reason to rent instead of buying, especially in your first year here in South Florida. So another factor that is related here is if you're only going to be in an area for a short period of time. So let's say you're going to live in that area for only 2 years or less. It might not be the right thing to buy a home. Renting, again, might be the way to go. And why is that? Well, buying a home is an asset. So you're buying into an asset that is a liquid asset. You're also going to be paying things such as closing costs and taxes, and there's lots of upfront fees that are going to go in. Over the long period of time, those fees are sort of disperse themselves and are not as important a year-on-year basis. But if you're only going to live in that home for a couple of years and then you go to sell it, well, anything can happen in a market in that short period of time. Over the course of a long period of time, real estate prices usually go up. In short period of time, there is a risk. So if you're only going to be in that area for a short period of time, renting might be the way to go instead of buying. I always tell people you've got to do things that's right for the season that you're currently in, that your family's currently in. So there are some things that people might need and want to do ahead of buying a home, such as working on your credit. Once you buy your home, you'll be living with that interest rate for the duration of the loan. You can certainly refinance, but you need interest rates a decent amount lower in order to do so. So if you're working on your credit, the higher your credit, obviously, the lower your interest rate will be. So you might want to hold off a year, whatever the time is that you can get your credit better. Sometimes that requires paying down debt. What lenders like to use as they look at your debt to equity ratio. The other thing that someone could be working on is just getting the down payment. Now, when you're renting, there is actually a down payment. I don't know if those of you might not all realize this. Typically in a rental, let's say the rent is $2,000 a month. Typically in a rental, you're going to have to come up with about $6,000 in rent before you move in to that place. What that represents is your first month's rent, your second month's rent, and your security deposit, which is typically about the same amount as 1 month's rent. So you're not going to get off scot-free in terms of a down payment when you're renting. Having said that, when you buy a home, you're probably going to require more of a down payment. So if you're working on getting that down payment, that might be a factor worth considering. But bear in mind that rents are always going higher, especially in this market. I've seen them go up in the last few years, actually quite a bit. So you need to factor all those things in when making your decision. Now, another factor for some of you out there, if you're a pet lover, let's say you have cats and you have dogs and you can't do without them, well, renting is going to be a little bit harder for you. When you own your home, There's sometimes regulations by the HOAs, the homeowners associations, such as the type of breed of a dog you can have in your home. But the restrictions are a lot more stringent when it comes to renting. So you can be in a community where they allow pets, but only for owners. As a renter, the homeowner, your landlord, might not allow pets. As a matter of fact, when I'm looking for on behalf of my clients for rentals, what I'll find is I'll put in all their criteria, and let's say there's about 25 homes that meet their criteria depending on their budget, amount of bedrooms, living space, and does it have a pool, all that stuff. So let's say there's 25, then I check off that box, pets allowed. That 25 will go somewhere down to 12 to 7, something in that range. So I tell people you can expect reduction of the amount of homes available to be down about somewhere between 50 to 75% if you're expecting to have pets. So dollar for dollar, renting versus buying. If you can afford it, it is far better to buy your home. When you are renting, what you are doing is you're putting this payment out, you're paying the landlord, and you're basically helping the landlord pay for his mortgage. So you'd rather be in a place where you're putting that money towards a mortgage, towards equity in your home. In the long run, you're going to be so much better off. Now, another example of how you can utilize this is, let's say you own your home and you want to borrow against your home. You've lived in the home several years and you've built up your equity. You can now go to a bank and do what they call a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit. So you can actually borrow against the equity in your home for things such as maybe you want to update your kitchen, do some work around, other work around the house. So you have much more flexibility in terms of your finances when you're a homeowner as opposed to renting. So whether you're renting or whether you're buying, you are going to spend money somewheres for a place to live. So what I recommend doing is get a handle on your finances. Look at your income, look at your expenses, see what you have coming in, see what you have going out, figure out a number that you're comfortable with in terms of what you can afford on housing, okay? Then the very next step, and an important one, is sit down with a lender. What a lender can do for you is he can tell you what you can expect with that kind of money, whether it's $1,500 a month, $3,500 a month, $2,500 a month. They can tell you what that translates into in terms of how much of a home you can buy. So if you're not sure of what your situation is, reach out to me. I can help you. I work with lots of very good qualified lenders, all of which would be happy to give you their professional opinion as to what your monthly budget can afford in terms of a house. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, drop it down in the comments section down below. In a minute, you're going to see a couple things pop up. Over here, you're going to see my face with a little circle. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, that's a great way to do it. And over here, we're going to have a little video that I've made recently. It's where to live in Palm Beach. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.